radar has now struck a number of times in a way that can be connected, and yet he's not getting the press that he's seeing other serial killers getting. Ted Bundy has been in the news.
Ted Bundy is charged with the murder of 2 Florida State University co-eds and is suspected in 19 other murders in western states.
He wants to know why they're not recognizing that he is among the elite serial killers.
He sent a letter to Cake TV, which was an ABC affiliate here in Wichita.
This morning, Cake TV was contacted by the person who police say they believe murdered 4 members of the Joseph Otero family.
The letter in '78 to Cake TV came in through the mail, just as a normal letter from a viewer, it appeared. And once it was opened, we knew we had something unusual.
BTK began today's letter with a question. How many do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national attention?
The letter indicated on no uncertain terms when was he going to get some national attention, that there were 7 in the ground, there were many more to go.
He says he is compelled to kill by what he calls Factor X.
In this letter, he describes a Factor X, and he describes as what drives him. He lets them know that he can't stop, that the Factor X makes him want to kill, and he's going to keep killing.
The early communications were more about exerting control and terrorizing Wichita.
With us right now is Chief of Police Richard Lemunion.
Chief Lemunion had to give an announcement to the public to give them a warning that there was a serial killer in our community.
What kind of leads do you have?
Well, very honestly, we have no solid leads at all.
We didn't know that all of the murders were related. When he announced that, now you definitely know that there's a serial killer on the prowl.
It was overwhelming horror at who is this person.
After the Fox murder, he didn't kill anyone again for 8 years.
Right.
The chief does want people to be aware that BTK is probably still around, so people should be careful.
I have no reason to doubt that the individual will strike again, assuming that he's still free and walking around.
I was born in '78. He has said himself that he just got busy, like raising kids and having a family.
How would you describe your childhood with your father?
I pretty much had the American dream, you know, like the 3-bedroom ranch with the big backyard and the Springer Spaniel dog. And then when I was 4, he built a massive tree house for my brother and I.
Gentle, loving, stern?
Kind of a mix. Most of the time he was even keel and kind and warm. At times he could be very firm or have flashes of anger or outbursts that you weren't expecting.
Was he physically abusive ever?
We only saw physical abuse twice. It was a Friday night. My mom had worked all day. She had gone to a lot of work to make manicotti for us, which was like a special meal. I don't know who started an argument, but our family got into an argument. Somebody pounded on at our old rickety kitchen table, and all of a sudden my dad just sprung up out of the chair and lunged for my brother, like facing him front, like his hands around his neck, like this.
Like choking him?
Yeah, like trying to strangle my brother. My brother was the color of a white sheet. He was just petrified.
Had you ever seen that side of your dad before?
No, I had never. So it was extremely out of the characteristic of my father to be physically abusive.
April 27th, it's 1985. And Maureen Hedge, who just happened to be his neighbor about 6 doors down, becomes victim number 8.
He'll describe to us that it took a lot of guts to kill Maureen Hedge because it was bringing the police close to home, literally a few houses away.
I was 6 years old. The night she went missing, there was a thunderstorm. I still can recall that night because I crawled into bed with my mom. So I knew my dad was gone that night because I wouldn't have ever crawled into bed with my mom. if my dad had been there.
Why was he gone?
He was on a Cub Scout camp out with my brother, who was 9.
The crime was planned with the alibi in mind.
He had to find ways to get opportunities. One of those ways was these overnights. He was a volunteer for the Boy Scouts when his son was involved and had a good space of time where he could go murder Maureen.
He will leave that Boy Scout event. He will drive to Wichita. He cuts through even the backyard of his own residence and goes to Maureen Hedges' house, cuts the phone line, breaks into her house.
He kills her at her home and then transports her body over to the church.
What he has done is he has prepared his church, the church that he was a member of.
He was the congregational president, and he wanted to take pictures of her posed.
Dressed her in underwear he had stolen from other houses, took Polaroid photos of her, and then dumped her body in a ditch.
He drives right back to the Boy Scout event and picks up right where he left off. Back to being Dennis Rader, the husband, the father.
Somehow I knew at 6 that her body had been found and that she had been murdered and she had been strangled.
The body was nude and police say badly decomposed. A pair of knotted pantyhose were found lying in the ditch beside it.
How did that affect you?
It scared me. Like, I started having night terrors around that time. I would wake up screaming, sitting up in bed. My mom was always the one that would come comfort. I would say, there's a bad man in my house. And she's like, no, there's no bad man in your house.
So over the next 5 years, he kills 2 more women, Vicki Wegerle in September 1986 and Dolores Davis.
My mother was a loving person, and for that reason had lots of friends and really no enemies.
Dolores' house has obvious signs of an intruder making entry into the back of the house. They'd use a cinder block and threw it through a sliding glass door.
She's, of course, going to be immediately up, running out there. That's when she sees him, the monster, standing there.
He'll kill her in the residence and he will remove her body.
He ends up dumping Dolores Davis out in sort of a culvert by a bridge.
My mother had been a beautiful person inside and out, and she's disregarded like a bag of garbage.
Several days later, she's found by a boy walking a dog, and the dog breaks loose, runs under the bridge, and finds Dolores.
His last 3 victims are not initially connected by the police to BTK. And that's because they're different. The bodies are in a different location. And he's not really attracted to one particular type of person. They're in the right place, the right location for him. Then he acts, whether they're young, whether they're old. It's more important to commit the crime than it is what the person may look like or what their age might be.
Dennis Rader, after he murdered Dolores Davis, went silent. He went silent for a very long time.
Most people believe that he was either incarcerated for another crime or killed himself or whatever, because serial killers don't quit killing until they're caught.
It became generational. People did forget about BTK, and there was a lot of speculation. Where is he? BTK was actually living among us. He was going to the movies with us. He was going to the grocery store with us.
It was inevitable that he was going to reach out. This is the greatest accomplishment of his life.
He felt it necessary to say, no, I'm still here, and I'll be the one that will write this story.